It is Sunday night, October 5th. Yes, we are into October. There are under 100 days left in this year. How depressing is that? Uh, we've we've had the gridiron come back. We've talked about the ice. Now it's time for the boys on the hardwood to have their say. So welcome to episode 125 of the Wise Guys Sports Show. I am one of your hosts, Jim Crenity, and welcome to our 2025 NBA preview. And Mike, how you doing this Sunday night, my friend?
I'm doing well. It's been an eventful week in our household as we have grown by one. And no, there's not a new baby. Well, I guess there is a new baby here, but it's not the type you're thinking of. So, as per usual, our contracted friend is sitting right here, and he is not too happy with me. Is over on the couch, curled up in a ball, is the kitten that we got for Bobby on Friday night. He is a white cat who is full of so much energy that today Bobby said, "Hey, he's eating," and we thought he was eating his food. No, he was on the counter licking a bowl from last night and has now dyed his nose orange from spaghetti sauce. So that's Tank. I would have him on, but he's asleep, and you know what? You don't wake the baby.
Wait,
No.
his nose is orange, kind of like a clown?
Not that. No, those clowns' noses are red.
I'm colorblind. I can't tell the difference. It's
Well,
when you
remember,
when you
clown red, little kitten with spaghetti nose, orange, and then there's a different shade of orange. But we're not going to go there. We're nice people. We're going to be good today. We haven't heard that one in a while, have we?
No, we have not, and I actually hit the wrong one, but it'll work.
I'm surprised you didn't do that when we were talking about the fucking Mets last week.
There were so many others. I mean, now that we're on to the divisional round, I mean, unfortunately, I have to say, as you being a Mets fan,
Okay, can we not do that right now?
I really should have held out on that and not given that to you.
No, I've done that at work 5 or 6 times. I enjoy the fact that I have it.
And you know what they're saying to you?
Rusty cunt bucket.
Which
Well, no,
that
they're
one
not,
we have
because
not used in quite some time.
I have a feeling we're going to use it tonight, though. I have a feeling.
On a programming note, Scissor Me Beavis will be trying to make its return here in the next couple of weeks
Oh, yes.
with a bit of a twist because now um they may be getting back together according to AEW TV.
Nice.
And the funny thing is what AEW is they actually have their stars on with one of their like backstage interviewers, and it's completely unserious. The guy's Canadian, so they call it "Hey EW," and so they were talking, and they're like, "Max, your dad was a Super Bowl champion with the Redskins, and Anthony, your dad put together mixtapes or compilation videos of hockey fights, and here's Bowens, like, literally holding things over his face, trying not to break because they're, like according to the storyline, they're, like, still butting heads and hating each other."
And they're trying to laugh the entire. They're trying not to laugh the entire time.
Yeah, pretty much. Within the first 5 minutes, he's already got them breaking, and they're trying to, like,
That's,
kayfabe it up to where they don't
I was
wanna
going to
do it.
say they're kayfabing the whole thing, aren't they? Um, but Jim, as you mentioned in the open, we've got a bunch to get to tonight. The NBA. I mean, we've had preseason games already. I think, haven't we?
A couple of teams have even had 2. I know the Cavaliers, our Cleveland
Tuesday.
Cavaliers, they start on Tuesday.
You said it like that, and the only thing I saw in my head was the ladies' man from SNL.
Cavalier
Yeah.
or Christopher Walken going Champagne, which, man, did they have a good cold open last night.
We will discuss the Super Bowl halftime show down the road because I know that was part of it because of who the host was.
Yeah, but tonight, let's get rolling here.
Let's get to the hardwood.
It's the 3 biggest topics in the world of sports from the last week. Get ready for the Wise Guys hat trick.
So we will start tonight in the Eastern Conference, but we will not talk about the Cavaliers. We'll save that for segment 3 tonight. And Mike, a very, very weird paradigm going on here in the East is the 2 teams that matched up in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, Boston and Indiana, lose 2 of the top 10 players in all of basketball, probably for the entire season, as Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton both tear their Achilles tendons in the playoffs. Tatum in the second round against the Knicks, and then Tyrese Halliburton in Game 7 of the NBA Finals against Oklahoma City last year while we were on the air.
Yeah, that was tough to go through. To be honest with you, watching Halliburton go down, but Jim, it really has just shifted all of the power in the Eastern Conference to 2 cities that you really wouldn't think in the last 15 years had that kind of power. You're talking about the New York Knicks, who now, in my opinion, have the second best roster in the Eastern Conference. Because if you think about it, Dame Lillard also tore the Achilles, but Dame Lillard is now back in Portland as he left Milwaukee, and now it's just the Giannis show by himself again. You have the Knicks, who, top to bottom, that's a damn good roster.
Yes.
It really is.
You have to think that in the grand scheme of things, the Knicks won the Karl Anthony Towns trade last year just by
Yes.
getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, where Minnesota kind of went out in the second round here. But I think in the long haul, I think it might benefit Minnesota a little bit better. But let's also see, can the Knicks finally take that next step and get back to the finals this year? We saw a number of different storylines. We saw Detroit get back to the playoffs. We saw Orlando kind of take a step back. We saw Chicago and Atlanta get into the play-in tournament. And then Philadelphia, just the complete and total collapse with their latest rebuild, and who knows where they're going to land this year.
I mean, if we're not doing predictions tonight, but if I'm going to give you one, it's that I don't think Philadelphia is getting out of the play-in tournament if it's up to me, if I'm making that pick. So, having said that, the biggest thing about where the Eastern Conference has landed is that you have 2 teams that, barring injury, And that's the big thing with all these teams, of course. Injuries are the biggest bugaboo. I mean, our team arguably should have been in the conference finals, but the injury bug bit them all at the same time. Barring injury, I expect for the first time in a long time, the Orlando Magic and the Detroit Pistons to compete for one of the top 4 seeds in the Eastern Conference. For all we talked about Orlando being a tough out 2 years ago for the Cavaliers, our old buddy up in Detroit there, I will let you have the first shot at his name this season, by the way.
No, it's I mean, there for the job that he did, I'm not throwing him under the bus. JB Bickerstaff did a fantastic job because he gave us basically the one thing that we all wanted. We wanted to see what Cade Cunningham could do in the playoffs. And even though that they went out early, Detroit did not disappoint last year.
They did not. And I told you when he was hired there that he was going to be a problem in Detroit because he had the one thing in Detroit he did not have in Cleveland, and that was an established star. Having Cade Cunningham and then turning them into a defensive force, it was a phenomenal job by Bickerstaff last year. As the season goes on, we, of course, will do our thing with his name that has brought us to stitches and tears and everything in between. But tonight, he is JB Bickerstaff. So the other thing to think about, too, is let's go down south of me here, where I hope to be in their arena when the Cavaliers play Orlando this year, if I can make it happen. That team is getting better each year, and Paolo is showing he was definitely the right choice at number 1 overall when he went. The brothers out of Michigan,
The Wagners, yes.
the Wagners, have developed very well. Orlando's going to be a problem,
I
and
mean,
not just a problem to the Cavs and the Knicks. They're going to be a problem to everybody in that conference.
yeah, I mean, Orlando clearly looks to be the best team in that Southeast division. I mean, they were the only one of the 5 that actually finished, 500 or better, and they were right at 500. But let's also keep in mind, Paolo Banchero missed a good chunk of the year. One of the Wagners missed several months. The other Wagner was hurt. So they've actually got some, them coming back healthy. They're certainly, I would think, get themselves back into the top 6. They also have to be thought of as the best team in that division right now, with Miami finishing 8 games under 500, 4 games back of Orlando. Atlanta was 2 games under 500, which, according to the standings and everything, but Miami won their play-in game to be able to get in. So that's why when you look at the standings to finish out last year, Miami 8 games under 500 still sits ahead of Atlanta. And then you've got, Charlotte and Washington bringing up the rear yet again. God knows if the biggest story coming out of the nation's capital in basketball was that their alternate, their I can't even think of what they call them, but basically we will call them their primary alternate jerseys are bringing back the black and gold for the for this year. It's not saying too much, especially Bradley Beal's no longer there. There's nothing to be excited about if you're a DC basketball fan. You might as well actually just wait for Georgetown, and they suck even worse.
Yeah, no, this is definitely going to be a pretty lean year in some towns in the Eastern Conference. But it is going to be a nice year for some others. Listen, I wouldn't count Boston or Indiana out from making a playoff run. Listen, Boston's got a good core with Tatum being that leader.
There was even talk, from what I was hearing after Tatum went down, that they could be looking to shop Jaylen Brown, even with that record contract, because they know
I don't think you can.
they're going to take a step back this year.
Never mind the record contract. I don't think you can shop him, especially now that Tatum is hurt. If Tatum wasn't hurt, yes, you should shop him, because if someone will take that contract on, you can get assets. And we all know that the one thing Boston has done over the last 20 years is when they've had the assets, made the big moves, won championships, both times they did it. I mean, bringing that first big 3 together with bringing in Garnett and bringing in Ray Allen to join Paul Pierce, you get that title and another trip to the finals, right? They lost to Kobe and beat him once, I think it was, right?
Correct. Yes.
So then you basically sell off the entire team, and you get this version of the Celtics that has been together now for quite some time. You figure that was the 2017 Eastern Conference Finals between them and the Cavaliers. Was it 2017 or 2018?
I want to say it was
18.
2017.
Did Kyrie leave the year after the championship or the second year?
The year after,
So
because
he left.
he got disgruntled, and then they actually shopped him out for Isaiah Thomas.
That was the 17-18 season. That was the fourth one in a row because he played in the
Okay.
finals in 16-17. So yeah, so you figure that team's been together since then because Tatum was on that team. Brown was on that team that lost to the Cavaliers in 7 in that Eastern Conference Finals. As I wear the jersey they were wearing that night, that they won the Eastern Conference. So this Celtics team, number one, is in the prime of their careers, and they've been together a while. They know how to play together. And Joe Mazzulla, for all the things we say about him as a player, is a good coach. He won a championship for a reason. So I wouldn't count Boston out. And listen, Indiana is that little engine that fucking could. They don't have quit in them. They have Carlisle's their coach, right?
Correct.
Rick Carlisle is a great coach. They got great pieces around Tyrese Halliburton. He just happened to be the guy who took over last year. I wouldn't count them out either. So both teams that were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, I think will be well represented, even though they have the major injuries. But I believe the top part of the conference is going to come down to two teams that were at the top of the conference last year in the Knicks and the Cavaliers.
It makes you wonder with Indiana, especially with what we saw, guys like Benedict Mathurin, guys like Isaiah Jackson, Andrew Nemhard, Aaron Nesmith, um, Pascal Siakam, really kind of step up, and Obi Toppin, who is dead and buried, with the Knicks, um, kind of the odd man out for as high as they drafted him, and we've always been high on, watching his career, with the University of Dayton, um, and
Yep.
just finally coming into his own. But it makes you wonder if Indiana, if by some magical, task that they're able to get Tyrese Halliburton back in some capacity for the playoffs, or do they actually just rest him the entire season? Because with the NBA, you would think with all the running and jumping that the Achilles is, but the problem is it's a non-contact sport, unlike football. Whereas we've seen with Deshaun Watson, with the Cleveland Browns, that he's coming up on a year now, and there's talk that he may actually try to play this year, but one bad injury, even if it's not an Achilles, his career is over. Halliburton has the potential with, first of all, with how well conditioned he is, um, to be able to possibly come back. Same thing with Tatum, even though Tatum's was only a couple of weeks before that. But you don't want to put that kind of pressure on those ligaments.
No, and I'll
Excuse
be
me.
honest with you. Bless you.
Thank you.
I don't think you can do either of those guys coming back this year. These are the cornerstones of your franchise. You cannot, I repeat, you cannot sacrifice the long-term success of your franchise by trying to get somebody back for a playoff run in a year that he won't be ready to go. And if he gets hurt again, it's definitely an entire season.
Let me play devil's advocate here. Between the two teams that we're talking about right now, the Celtics and the Pacers, who's more inclined to be able to continue their success, even if it's not to the level that we expect with the way that their
The
rosters
Celtics.
are comprised right now?
The Celtics.
I think
The
I got to
Celtics.
go Indiana.
See, I say the Celtics because of the pedigree. This was a team coming off a championship, and 95% of that roster has a ring from that title a couple of years ago. And experience in the finals when they lost to Golden State. Was it the year before?
Correct.
Yeah. So you're talking about a team 2 out of the last 3 years has been to the NBA Finals and won one of those rings. The Celtics, because of the experience and because of the coaching. Carlisle, I don't believe has no. Carlisle was a coach in Dallas when they won, right?
Correct.
Okay. Carlisle's ring is almost 15 years old. As a matter of fact, Carlisle's ring is 15 years old.
But the thing that you have to kind of keep in mind is that with Boston, you've got Brown and Tatum, and that's the focal point there. Boston runs a lot of their offense through their stars, whereas Indiana, I think, is a little bit more of a complete team because they still were hanging around. And if it wasn't for a late third quarter run by Oklahoma City after the Halliburton injury just sucked all the air out of the Indiana bench, we could be talking about Indiana as a defending champion right now. They still held that game very close. It was bucket for bucket, but it just got away from them when Halliburton went down in game 7.
Um, yeah, no, you're right about that. I will give you that. The reason I say the Celtics is because that was for one game, and really not even a whole game. We got hurt in the first quarter, right?
Yeah, but also remember he had also been hurt earlier in that series. I want to say he was hurt in game 3 or 4, and I don't think he played in game 5 either.
No, he didn't play 4, 5, or 6. And if I'm not, and yes, but they won the games on their floor, so that's a home floor. Jim, just something to, and I hate them. I can't stand the Boston Celtics. So for me to say the Boston Celtics there, I honestly believe that they're the team that can make noise without Jason Tatum. I don't think the Celtics or the Pacers have a guy who can score like Halliburton. Brown can score like Tatum. And the Celtics always draft the one or two white dudes who can hit threes with their eyes shut. It just kind of happens.
So I know we say we're not doing predictions here, but is there a team, if you were to choose between Boston or the Knicks to win the Atlantic Division based off of where they are now with the Tatum injury and everything, who are you going?
It's the Knicks.
Okay.
Jalen Brunson and
Cat
Cat
between them last year.
Yeah, Jalen Brunson and Cat are going to run that division. And they're going to be phenomenal. They're going to do phenomenally well. So I got the Knicks winning that division every which way from Sunday.
I do as well. I don't think it's going to be a runaway. Do you think that there's a team in the Central that may be able to challenge the Cavaliers, which I know I'm burying the lead? Indiana,
Detroit.
I think is still going to be good. I don't know if Detroit. I think who's going to be the closest challenger to the Cavaliers? Because we all know that the Southeast is wide open.
Yeah, Detroit. I'm telling you, there is something about that squad that scares me. I don't know if it's Bickerstaff knowing the players in Cleveland, if it's Cade Cunningham being as talented, if not just slightly less talented of a scorer as Donovan Mitchell, or the supporting cast, which we'll get into in the third segment, has changed dramatically for Cleveland. Detroit's bringing back basically the same roster. They're basically saying, let's do this again. Excuse me. Detroit scares the shit out of me, Jim.
I mean, when you last thing before we move on to segment 2 is that when I looked over the rosters, Indiana's only got one guy on their roster over than 30, and it's Pascal Siakam, who's making $45 million this year, and he's only 31. Boston's got a couple of guys. For Detroit, I'm seeing at least 5 or 6 guys on their 25-man, under contract roster that are 30 and above. Isaiah Stewart, 24, looks to be hopefully taking that next step. Marcus Sasser from Houston, I think, actually steps up. They've still got Karis LeVert in the trade from last year. Jaden Ivey from Purdue, the young man going into his second year. Tobias Harris is always going to be, a key veteran. Javonte Green, same thing. You also have to keep in mind that they've also got Jalen Duren at center at 6'10", the wonderful young talent out of Memphis from a couple of years ago. And Cade Cunningham's only going to turn 25, which means he's only going to start peaking and getting better.
This is why they scare me. And the fact that Karis LeVert is still there, again, scares me.
as he is quickly but and surely moving his way through every team in the Central Division. So
Basically,
he's only got Chicago and Milwaukee left.
there's time.
There's still time. But speaking of time, we've run out of time on the Eastern Conference. Now we're going to out west.
The Western Conference, the home of the NBA champion for the first time, and it's not somebody that says Golden State. Is that the first time in a long time Golden State hasn't been the winner of the championship? Yeah.
Really outside of
Figured-
you figure out of Los Angeles or
16.
Golden State. Absolutely. Yeah. I want to say
And
this is the
besides-
first Western Conference champion, not in the state of California. I'm trying to think. You might have to go back to San Antonio.
Yeah, that is the last one. Because what San Antonio won the year before LeBron came back to Cleveland.
Denver.
Yes, that's right.
Denver
Okay.
3 years ago. Yes.
Jokic. Okay. We forgot the Joker, Jim. How'd we do that? Oh, I know how. He's watching the horses. He don't care. He's playing.
I saw that with him and Rocky. That was pretty good.
That was good. But let's talk about what's there to talk about, and that is the defending champs are in the Western Conference, and it is the Oklahoma City Thunder. And speaking of guys who are just getting better, SGA, hello. Again, a team I don't want to see if it comes down to our boys being in the finals. I don't want to see them. I want someone else to get there. But on top of that, is it just me, or does the Western Conference feel very, very top heavy?
Extremely. Once you get past the Thunder, the Rockets, and the Nuggets, it is very top heavy because you also can't count out a possible Minnesota rebound. Hot take. I think the Lakers, you're going to see the collapse of the Lakers very soon.
I agree.
It might even be by the All-Star break at this point.
It's possible. I think that our old buddy's got something left in the tank, though. So we'll see where that lands. But I don't even want to talk about them because I feel like we waste too much time on the Lakers the last couple of years because of him and where he was as far as the record went and whatnot. But you have the Thunder looking to repeat, obviously, become the first repeat champion since those Golden State Warriors in 17 and 18. More importantly, you have what's going on in Dallas. And I want to skip over that douchebag in Houston quickly and go to Cooper Flagg. And this is the first new era in Dallas since Luka came in the league. And did Luka play 1 year with Dirk?
Yes.
Okay. So you handed it right from Dirk to Luka. But more importantly, we know the Dallas Mavericks have undergone an ownership and front office change, which we question. We have to question the motives of why the Luka deal was made because of the new owner. Jim, why does it feel like to me that they're trying to set up the Dallas Mavericks to move?
First of all, it's never going to happen. Because the league's going to be looking more to expand than anything, and also you don't want to have, a team leave the fourth biggest market in the country. I mean, it would, even though that when you rank the teams in that city, they easily come in third, and we're talking like Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington, all of that. So I mean, naturally, you're going to have the Cowboys number one. I'd also have to say that maybe you're thinking the Dallas Stars could be 2, the Mavericks 3, and the Rangers 4th.
I think the Rangers are second because they've won the most recent championship.
Yeah, but in the grand scheme, the Stars are really just looking. They've been in the Western Conference each of the last 3 years against the Edmonton Oilers and just have never gotten over that hump because they're going up against the greatest player of our generation right now.
No, I agree with you 100%. Connor McDavid is the reason why they haven't gotten to the Stanley Cup Finals. But the fact remains is the Cowboys are the most popular because of the intelligence of the area, and the second most popular is the most recent winner, and that's the Rangers, who still have a decent core, and we're in it until the second to last week of the season this year. Yes, the Stars are massive. Of course, when you take a team from Minnesota and bring them to Dallas, you better be good. You know what, dude? I think the Mavericks land four now. I really do. With all the changes, you don't. I mean, Cooper Flag, yeah, he's great. He's a rookie. He was the number one overall pick. You gave up a generational popularity based player in Luka Doncic.
Here's what also you
Ye-
forget, what everyone forgets is as much as we're throwing dirt on the Dallas Mavericks, they were still in the play-in tournament last year, even though that they had a massive collapse after the Luka trade. They were still in the play-in tournament. Kyrie was hurt. Luka was gone. Cooper Flag was still 2 months away from getting drafted. So it's going to be and Clay Thompson is basically ready for the same factory as the horse that's on their in their logo.
He can. He's got a kid on the way, but he's still not Philip Rivers or Tyreek, or for that matter, Antonio Cromartie.
But we digress.
Listen, yeah, we digress a lot. Yeah, no, Dallas will be interesting because of Cooper Flag. I want to see how him and Kyrie interact because Kyrie was a Luca fan on top of being his teammate. Um, as far as Texas goes, the Spurs are in year 3 of the Wembyama thing, and the first full season post Greg Popovich. Who did they acquire last year that we loved?
De'Aaron Fox.
A full season of De'Aaron Fox now to go with Wemby. And they did well in the trade or in the draft 2 years ago. Castile, who finished second to in the dunk contest, had a great season. You have Houston with Durant now, which is a shit show, but whatever.
And keep in mind, going back to San Antonio for a minute, they had a fantastic draft because they ended up getting Dylan Harper, the All-American guard out of Rutgers, Carter Bryant, the forward out of Arizona, and then Cam Jones, the stud guard from Marquette. Now, granted, Cam Jones will probably be in the D League to at least start the year, but that is a lot of depth because Wembyama is back fully healthy. He could have actually played summer league for a game or two if he would have, if he wanted to, just to be able to kind of go through the motions, kind of like what Dallas did with Cooper Flag, playing one game and sit him the rest of the summer.
Yeah, and you see that more with the higher draft picks now and the guys who are first and second year, because that Vegas title doesn't mean anything. I expect big things out of Wemby this year. I expect big things out of him and De'Aaron Fox. I think San Antonio in the first full season post Greg Popovich is going to be in good hands, and they're going to be competitive. But trying to dissect the bottom part of the Western Conference, it's not really anything that's going to take too long. You have the Lakers, who are over the hill and not very talented below their big three of Luka, Austin Reeves, and LeBron. You have the $28 million lack of CEO across town in with the Clippers, and they brought in their big gun, Chris Paul, to try and get them somewhere, who's, same age as LeBron. Let's see. Sacramento's not there yet. Portland brought Damian Lillard back on a huge contract for him not to play this year.
Right. But they're hopeful that Scoot Henderson can really step his game up this year. And Scoot Henderson had a really good rookie year. And I think that they've got big things involved with Portland. I also think it's going to be something where there's going to be a little extra excitement because you got the Portland Fire in the WNBA coming in next season as well. So that's also going to be, look at what Indiana did with the spark of, the Caitlin Clark factor last year and how it rubbed off on
It did.
on the Pacers, especially the second half of the season. Could we maybe see something like that with a struggling team like Portland, which Indiana was the year before? When Cleveland gets their team in 2 years, the Cavs are already going to be a very qualified team. I'm interested to see what that is going to do leading into next season. For the WNBA because they're in their finals right now and they're going to have their draft in the next few weeks.
Yeah, no, it definitely when they go hand in hand, especially in the same city, you have to think that one is going to lead into the other. The rebuild of the Cavs, with as good as they have been, really since 3 years post LeBron.
Correct.
Since 3 years post LeBron is why Cleveland got its WNBA franchise back for all intents and purposes. Portland, I think Portland's a great basketball city just in general.
Yeah.
Because other than the NBA, they've only got the Ducks, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's that. Yeah, you're right. That's really about it. And then you are right that the West is top heavy, but you look at the contenders, they're all relatively young. Houston with that huge come up last year, Oklahoma City, winning the championship with one of the more outstanding rosters. Denver is still a threat, even though that Jokic is starting to get up there. But the three teams that you think about that everybody wants to contend and everybody wants to bandwagon are the three teams that are basically have maybe one more year left on their window because we're going to see three potential Hall of Famers out the door within this or next year, and that's going to be LeBron James, Steph Curry, and James Harden.
And add Chris Paul to that.
Right.
So
The two LA teams and Oak and San Jose, San Francisco, you know, could this might be their last playoff window for a little bit because you figure the big story we all know about the big story with the Clippers in Englewood. We can actually now start saying Englewood as opposed to Los Angeles because of them now being separate. Um, was the Kawhi thing. How is that going to hang over their head? We know the storyline with, in downtown Los Angeles with Luka getting his body finally where they need to be, but LeBron is basically on his way out. He's, could this be his farewell tour at this point? And then the Warriors, their big three has long been broken up, and their biggest news was the big contract negotiation that they had with Jonathan Kuminga finally gets resolved back on Thursday with a 2-year contract.
Yeah, the Warriors are done. I think it's time for Steph to have his own farewell tour. Draymond is old as dirt too, basketball wise anyway. I don't think the Clippers had a playoff window, Jim. Be very honest with you. I don't think they had it. This is a franchise that, quite honestly, has never amounted to much. They tried the big three thing a couple of times.
They even tried the big four.
They did.
Between Paul, Harden, Kawhi, and Paul George.
Yeah, and it didn't work for a reason. Because there's one ball, and unfortunately, those dudes just don't care. If I had to handicap it right now, I don't see anybody beating Oklahoma City unless unless Denver figures out how to be more than just Jamal Murray and Jokic.
Oklahoma City won the Western Conference in the regular season by 16 games. Could I see a scenario where that could be even worse this year? Because their closest contender was Houston, and now you bring, unfortunately, that the name in the middle, the hired gun, Kevin Durant, into that equation as he tries to chase one final ring in his career.
More like hired pea shooter.
Yeah, I mean, he's still a bona fide Hall of Famer. He's got 2 rings. He's he's, in the top 5 in scoring all time, um, already. He's we understand that, he is a petulant little child at certain times, but you have to keep in mind that him going there and them really not having to give up very much to get him, and then you pair him with what they've already got there. It's amazing to be able to think that we're talking about Houston as a possible Western Conference Finals contender, um, because when you look at their roster, he's now paired up with Steven Adams again. Um,
That's right.
Durant 37, Dorian Finney-Smith 32, Jeff Green 39. It's a very old roster, but there's a roster that's still got a ton of talent there.
Agreed. Agreed. That is a very talented roster. Just the guys you brought up, Steven Adams still can play at a high level. Durant can still score at a high level. Jeff Green he's still around.
I mean, he was
There's a reason
35
he's
when the
still around.
Cavs had him.
Yeah, I would say
And
he
that
wore
was
that
like
same jersey.
I was gonna say that was like just 2 years ago that they had him, and he was 46 years old then.
Jeff Green was on the 18 finals run. So he was 84 then. I love how he exponentially gets older every time we bring up how old he is.
I mean, he was 147 years old.
I mean, come on. The guy's pushing, he knew Jesus. It's how old the guy is. I mean, come on.
When your
You know
Social
what, though?
Security number matches your jersey number.
Okay, here we go. I will say this, though. Talking about one of the teams that we didn't want to talk about real quick. If this is the end for Mr. James, and it very well could be. I think we can both agree on that it very well could be the final year. I hope he doesn't announce it. It would be an absolute fucking circus.
Until after the All-Star break or something like that. That he doesn't do it early. If he actually sees that they're not going anywhere, he just walks away later on this season. The no going back to the Cavs for a year thing, and just
No.
and announces it and just kind of walks off into the sunset and kind of turns the reins over.
Yeah, the only way I can see him back in Cleveland is if this happened. If the Lakers season was so bad that we got to trade deadline time and he decided, I'm done. I'm not going to play again after this season. And the Lakers said, we want to buy you out. And Kobe Altman and I keep forgetting the GM's name.
Mike Chernoff.
Okay. And Kobe and Mike go, listen, let's ride this thing out.
I'm sorry, Mike Gansey. Mike Chernoff is with the Guardians.
That's right. So let's ride this thing out. This is what everybody's going to want to see. You are not dictating terms. You see what this team is. Come join us. Let's put a banner up and you walk into the sunset. And I think if the Lakers are that terrible, I don't think he'd say no.
And we shift from LeBron's current location to the hypothesis of the team that we follow and we're both wearing tonight. And we were supposed to be joined tonight by our NBA expert and longtime associate of the show, Patrick McGuire. Something came up last minute. Patrick did reach out to me and say that he does want to come on before the end of before the start of the season. So we are hopeful that we can have Patrick on here in the next couple of weeks. He's currently working on his final Cavs preview for the Cleveland Sports Report. So we will definitely let you know when Patrick's going to be joining us.
Absolutely. So let's talk about them. The last year's number one overall seed in the Eastern Conference, who got bit by the injury bug going into round two against the Indiana Pacers and got bounced pretty ugly. It was not pretty at all. That was the only time they lost back to back games at home all year,
Correct.
if I remember correctly.
Correct. And it's just become kind of the bugaboo of getting into the playoffs. I mean, thankfully they didn't struggle in the first round like they did 2 years ago against Orlando, but they turn the corner. They have that second round series, and they cannot adjust. The injuries hit, accordingly, and you know the whole season bottoms out to where we were kind of throwing dirt on them really as early as game two in that series.
Yeah, and especially with the injuries. And I think you and I talked about it last year when the season was over. This was a team that was snake bit last year because they played so good at the beginning of the year. I mean, that team, we were having conversations that we didn't know when they were going to lose. They had announced, it just came up over, I just saw it again today. I was going through Instagram. I got a message from somebody, and the graphic was there that at one point in time, the Cavs had a shot to end the season with less losses in the NBA season in 82 games than last year's Cleveland Browns. I mean, it's unfucking real that a team that had an 82 game schedule could lose less games than a team that had a 17 game schedule.
hmm The Cavs
Granted,
finished
it's
with
Cleveland.
18, and the Browns finished with 14.
Yeah, so the first 60 plus win season that a James was not a part of, which is an amazing scenario. And as much as I didn't like the move at first, I'm starting to warm up to it. And that is the trade of Isaac Okoro and the bringing in of a now healthy Lonzo Ball. So, because if Lonzo's healthy and he doesn't have to start, he's not going to start. Well, he'll start at the beginning of the year because Darius is hurt. This is a
And
guy who's a
I'm I'm hearing reports that Donovan Mitchell may shift to point guard until uh, Darius Garland is healthy, as
real.
Garland has a toe injury that's going to keep him out probably until December. And then you also see there the alternate Max Strus had foot surgery, and he's probably going to be out until the first of the year.
Yeah, Strus may have been the best move they made last year. He was amazing. I remember you telling me about him when they made the move, and I didn't really know a whole lot about him, but that's phenomenal. My jersey is relevant again as they bring back home. Is he wearing 22? Please tell me they did it again.
He is wearing 22.
Yes. As they bring back former Cavalier and hometown hero Larry Nance Jr. Of course, one of the coolest things that happened in the last 10 years with the Cavs was when they traded for Larry Nance Jr. During the 2017-2018 season and immediately started going to the league to unretire the number just so he could wear it. And of course, Larry Nance Sr.'s 22 will still hang in the rafters at Nomo Romo Fijo, and Larry will have it on his back, and I will have it on mine. This is the first time I got a relevant player on a jersey, dude. You don't even know.
The Cavaliers, the moving of Okoro is really the only subtraction that they have. When you look down their roster, they bring back Sam Merrill. Um, they're now in that second apron of the luxury tax, though, because by bringing back him and Strus, even if they only re-sign Strus for a small amount, um, with Strus, he's under he's on a $15 million contract extension, but it's now costing them over 45 million with the luxury tax involved, which actually puts them through that second apron. But you've got, you still have your, four of your five starters there. You've now got you're going to have a full season with DeAndre Hunter in the mix. Again, Sam Merrill involved with that. Lonzo Ball into the equation. They're hopeful to have very big things out of Thomas Bryant, coming in at center to be able to help spell Jared Allen. You've got Dean Wade still coming back. You've got you have Luke Travers coming in. Jalen Tyson, where they're hopeful to be able to take a bigger step forward. The drafting of Tyrese Proctor, who's probably going to end up starting down in the G League, but they're hopeful can maybe be a back 12 guy. And also might actually end up seeing some time with the big club with the rotation and in with the guard situation. You can't expect that you're going to get a ton out of guys like Bryant and Nance. And then, I'm hoping that they don't have to lean too much on Ball with his off injured history. But, you know, this is also something that um that Gansey and Kobe Altman have really done a very, very high quality job in the last few years of having your stars, but also having your depth to be able to spell them, providing that one of these stars does not suffer a very long-term injury, which again, unfortunately, has hit Darius Garland. Last year, it was late in the season and going into the playoffs, and then also now is pushing into the start of the regular season.
Yeah, but I think you can look at this much like we did at Kyrie's injury in the 15 finals, where he would not be able to have to worry about playing the first half of the season. Um, Now, having said that, I do worry about Darius because it seems that he's getting the injury bug has bitten him pretty hard. When they made the decision that Darius was the one to run with and Colin Sexton was the one that had to go, great decision. It got us Donovan Mitchell, who re-signed last year for that big contract, and he will most likely retire a Cleveland Cavalier. Um, you are talking about a front office, Jim, and I think this cannot be overlooked too much, especially by the overall NBA world. This is a front office that had to go through how many bad contracts that were signed when LeBron was here. You had to go through the inevitable collapse after LeBron left, which everybody knew was going to happen after that fourth round of the finals. We all knew he was going to LA, he's going to film the movie, yada yada. They have rebuilt this thing into a juggernaut very, very quickly. And they've done it through three different ways. They've drafted really well with Garland and Merrill and Tyson. Who was the kid? And don't forget, Evan Mobley's going to be a problem this year.
The reigning defensive player of the year, but even though we do have to put an asterisk on that because if Wembanyama doesn't get hurt, he wins that thing in a walk.
Oh, agreed 100%. I will say this though, I don't think it's as big a walk as most people think because of how good Mobley was. I agree with you, he wins. Maybe in a crawl, not a walk. It would have had some distance, but I think Mobley would have had a lot of first place votes besides the ones from Cleveland, which he was going to get no matter what he did anyway. What these two guys in the front office have done is build this franchise into a perennial contender. Jim, we haven't seen that minus LeBron since the Lenny Wilkins and Brad Daugherty and Mark Price and Larry Sr. and Elo and Hot Rod Williams. We haven't seen that in 40 years.
But here's the underlying fact that we have to think about. They're starting to resemble that team a little bit. They're also starting to become a little bit of, and it pains me to say this, they're quickly becoming the Buffalo Bills of the NBA is because they're having all of that great regular season talent and they completely run out of gas and get stomped, when they actually make that playoff run, especially after they get out of the first round of the playoffs.
I understand where you're going with that.
Cavs had that history. They could never get past Michael. They could beat the Knicks. They could beat the Celtics. They could never get past Michael. And then it was because of the Cavaliers that Michael took that next step to become the greatest player in history. Josh Allen is quickly becoming. He's. I think even coming off of an MVP, he is the best quarterback in football, not named Patrick Mahomes. He's basically cannot get past Patrick Mahomes, who is quickly turning into the second greatest quarterback in the history of the NFL. The Cavs are starting to. They're if they don't actually make a run to the Eastern Conference finals this year, you have to start maybe putting that moniker. You have to start attaching it to there because you're going to have Garland healthy. You're going to get Strus back healthy. It's pretty much the same roster as last year. You give up Levert to bring in DeAndre Hunter, which we did not want to see Karras go, but it worked out perfectly with what you got in return in DeAndre. You did not want to see a Coro go, but you also had to figure for all the good young talent that they draft, he was going to be the odd man out because he was the one that really just kind of did not take that next step to stardom like the other four had. Even though you had to trade to get Jared, you traded to get, Donovan, who was already an established superstar. But you move him and you bring in Lonzo Ball. Now there's a huge question mark on Lonzo Ball, especially with the injury history. You've taken a lot of the drama with his old man out of the equation. Um, in recent years, you don't hear boo out of his old man anymore. But there's a lot of question marks, but you have to figure that they are going to be there with the Knicks for that top spot in the East by the time next spring comes around.
So here's where I'm going to tell you you're partially wrong on the Buffalo Bills thing, because you're partially right too. This franchise back then had one player they couldn't get through. One player who for a long time, Michael had one team he couldn't get through. This franchise is not lost because of talent. It is not lost because of one player. It is not lost even because of play by the guys on the roster. This team has lost because injuries have taken two good deep runs in the playoffs away from them.
The
Hold on.
first year, I will let you finish your statement. The first year, yes, there were injuries involved, but it also was because of the lack of adjustments from Bickerstaff, which really spelled his exit. Last year, it's also because Kenny Atkinson started lacking those same types of adjustments once that Pacers series got started. He could do that in the opening round against Atlanta. He couldn't do that. Damn it, he could not do that he could not do that against a team like Indiana who had actually started peaking that well.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing: you can't make quality adjustments when you have the guys you make the adjustments with not playing. Bless you again.
Thank you.
Yes, you're right. Bickerstaff didn't make adjustments, but we saw that from JB in the regular season and the postseason for several years. Kenny Atkinson was the coach of the year for a reason last year. He took basically the same exact roster Bickerstaff had, with one exception, maybe?
Yeah, but remember, after the All-Star break, he started putting together those lineups of doom to be able to, give guys with load management and everything. And I understand he never got out of it.
He
When the
didn't need
playoffs
to.
started, and that's why they nearly lost. That's why they nearly blew the top spot in the East. Because he was trying to go Kevin Stefanski and be the smartest guy in the room.
I didn't see that, Jim. Honestly, I didn't. And again, you and I look at the Cavaliers from two different things. I also don't listen. I don't have I won't say pleasure, because I've listened to the radio in Cleveland a lot and it's not pleasurable at all. I haven't had the other people looking at it through Cavaliers colored glasses with me. I listen to my games. I watch the highlights on YouTube. I watch when I can on here. I will say this again: a fully healthy Cavs team 2 years ago would have taken Boston to 6 or 7 games. A fully healthy Cavs team last year, I honestly think, beats Indiana. They've done it all year. And you would have had game 7 in Cleveland. It's a different animal when game 7 is in somebody else's house. Then you would have pulled the Knicks in the conference finals. The Knicks didn't know how to guard anybody on the Cavs. We all know that. The injuries are the reason Kenny couldn't make the adjustments he needed to make, because they were healthy in the first round until the final game. They lost Jared Allen in the last game, didn't right?
Right, another rib injury, yes.
Another rib injury. So you lose the Fro. You honestly don't have anybody to play the middle except for Tristan Thompson. which we all know Double T, as much as we love him, is over the hill.
And he's gone.
Yeah, he's gone. And that's the Larry Nance position now, by the way.
And that's
Um,
also what they're hoping that Thomas Bryant can be, stepping in.
exactly. Yeah, because every team needs a thug. We all know that. But I'll say it again. I firmly believe a fully healthy Cleveland Cavaliers team last year goes to the NBA Finals. Now, do they beat Oklahoma City? I don't think anybody was beating Oklahoma City,
No.
dude. We did see them play a game against Oklahoma City and win. We saw them also go into Oklahoma City and get the doors blown off them. So who knows what 7 games would have brought. This team makes a run to the conference finals, if not the finals last year, fully healthy. Let's see what the health does for 2025, 2026. If this team hits the playoffs healthy as the number 1 seed, with the way the East is currently constructed, why not? Why not Cleveland? Why not do something they've never done without LeBron? And that's get to a finals. You're talking about a monkey off of Donovan Mitchell's back. You're talking about a monkey off the front office's back. I mean, think about it. Darius has been hurt so much, people are starting to wonder, should they have kept Colin Sexton instead of Darius Garland? I don't think they should have. But
Finish your point. I want to double back to that as we close out the segment and get ready for halftime.
yeah, so this would be a monkey off the front office's back. They have rebuilt this thing into a top-of-the-line Eastern Conference contender in such a short amount of time. They finally have the coach that can take the principles given by Bickerstaff, and I'm going to compare him to Buck Showalter for a minute. Buck Showalter took the Yankees to the playoffs, wasn't the guy to get him there. They brought in Joe Torre. Did the same thing with Arizona. They brought in Brenly. They win a World Series. He did the same thing with Texas. They bring in Juan Washington. They get him to the World Series, and of course, Bochy and them win one finally. He did it in Baltimore. He did it with the Mets. Biggerstaff was the guy to rebuild it. Kenny's the guy to get him there. You give Kenny Atkinson a full roster in that second series? Come on, dude. Come on.
If they come up short this year, and if we've got another Garland injury, could you possibly see them moving on from him officially this time? Because this would be 3 years in a row that they can't count on him. That's when they need him the most that late in the year.
I think
Could you
there's a
see them
reason.
making that Kyrie type transition.
No, I think there is a reason that teams like Boston and Milwaukee and Denver and all these other teams that are in the playoffs every year with a shot at a title, it's continuity. Now, there is one famous Cleveland franchise that thinks that's a dirty word in some kind of foreign fucking language. There are 2 other ones that are trying to give it. And if you blow it up, because it's not just Garland you're going to have to get rid of. You're going to have to sweeten the pot with one of the other big studs in order to get him moved.
Yeah, well, Garland still has 3 years left on his deal, and you're
It's about
still
injury history, James.
well,
If
you're
you're
paying
getting rid of him for injury history, you're not going to get a lot for him because of injury history.
right. Well, I mean, he's owed 39 this year, 42 next year, 44 in 27, 28. He's still only 26, and he's a UFA after in the summer of 2028. So he's still in his prime physically, but you have to start thinking the fragility factor coming in the worst case scenario.
I agree with you. Where I would do that is I would go out and get me, probably through the draft, depending on what you land on. If not free agency, I would get me a guy who can play the point and spell him for a significant amount of time if needed. If you move Donovan Mitchell to the point, that's one way to do it. You almost have to start bringing Garland in off the bench to spell Donovan, which Kenny did a lot of last year, and it worked to perfection. He's got to go back to the well. He's got to have no choice, and especially with no Strus the first half of the season.
Right, because you're gonna have to run Sam Merrill out there as pretty much a starter, or Lonzo Ball. You're gonna have to platoon those guys, you know, realistically, potentially at the point if you want to keep Donovan at the 2.
I will say this, and then I want to get your thoughts on it, and then we'll run to halftime. If Max Strus would have had that foot surgery early in the offseason, I don't think they trade Isaac Okoro.
I think it still would have been a foregone conclusion that they were looking to move Okoro because they definitely wanted to shore up the backcourt a little bit more. They wanted to get somebody who can actually play some defense, which Ball can do, but they also need a guy who's going to be able to fill up the score sheet a little bit more. Which Okoro, good offense, good on ball defender. I'm sorry, but not the greatest off ball scorer.
No, not at all. Agreed,
And we'll
100%.
get into this with Patrick here in the next couple of weeks as well.
Yeah, no, that's definitely going to happen. We're going to go more in depth on this, but yeah, we're going to get to halftime now.
And then we will see you guys in 5 minutes. We actually will look into NFL, the week 4 of the NFL. So, I'm sorry, week 5 of the NFL season. We'll look into this week's top 25. We'll get ready for the NHL's regular season starting this week, and then we'll have the translator, and we'll let you guys enjoy the rest of your night.
Sounds like a plan. We'll see you in 5. And we're back.
Had to take meds and get a nosebleed and whatever. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Right. So they gave us a different needle for my vitamin B injection today. They gave me an IM needle for a sub Q injection. And the wife always starts Sundays with, "Oh, I get to stab you today."
Stabby stab.
So, real quick, just a quick score update. We are looking at most likely a 6-3 New England lead at the half. As right
We're
now
gonna,
it is first and
yeah, we're
is
gonna
it
talk about that here in just a moment when we get our NFL wrap up.
and it is bottom of the sixth with 2 outs in Seattle. The Mariners lead the Detroit Tigers 1-0. Scary moment in the Detroit game as Chris Paddock, relief pitcher for the Tigers, took a line drive foul ball off of him somewhere. Of course, with Scooble pitching, you never know what that's going to do to him after what happened with David Fry. Of course, that very famously last week. Was it 2 weeks ago? It's so quick now.
Speaking of which,
Hey, in case you haven't noticed, and judging by the attendance, you haven't.
So tonight in the blast, we got the Jim to IR. Thank God. We're going to close with that tonight. We're going to talk a little bit the top five in college football, the NFL Week 5. Of course, the regular season opens Tuesday for the NHL and MLB. So, real quick, Jim, speaking of the Major League Baseball playoffs, we have the big Rican number of the week. And this week's big Rican number of the week is the number 6. And James, do you know what the number 6 has to do with this week, sir?
the number of actual runs the Yankees have scored in the last week.
You are close, my friend, but not quite there. 6 is the magic number this week because in the first 2 games of the American League Division Series between the New York Yankees and the Toronto Blue Jays, the New York Yankees are a combined 6 for 44 in those 2 games. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is 6 for 7, including the first ever Grand Slam in Toronto Blue Jays postseason history today on a ball that has to clear customs.
Not necessarily, because the boy needs to hit the weight room a little bit. 111 miles an hour off the bat, and it only went 415.
It hit a fan, dude, in the second deck in left center.
You're telling me it still couldn't have actually gone 440 or something with hit tracks? I mean, if that's what Sim and Will from the Baseball Bat Bros are doing, even though Will's hitting drop fives.
This was a hanging slider. They're hitting fastballs out of the machine. Dude. But yeah.
Jackass.
But David Ortiz had the best line of the day, and I told you before, but I'll tell everybody now. A-Rod is trying to pump up the Yankees, of course, because that desk on Fox is Kevin Burkhardt, the former Mets reporter, a fraud. Jeter, and Poppy. And first of all, when Poppy yells the Yankees lose, it's music to my ears. But today he said the line of the year. And A-Rod's trying to pump the Yankees up. Oh, if we did this, we could have won. And he goes, they could bring back Jesus. They're still going to Cancun.
As the Yankees have been outscored 23-6 in the first two games of this series.
You know, and coming off such an emotional lift from the kid who pitched game 3 against the Red Sox, you thought they would take that emotional lift into this series. Well, their ace got absolutely fucking tattooed today.
I stand corrected. I shortchanged them. It's 23-8 heading back to the Bronx. Still doesn't make it right.
Yeah. And somebody on TikTok was saying Aaron Judge is hitting 400 in the postseason. I don't think he's gotten a hit in this series. He lit up the Red Sox, so he sees 84 times a fucking year. No. But their season should be over. And on the other side, of course, the Phillies last night, you see the Phillies blew another game late in the playoffs.
Yep. As the Dodgers lead that series 1-0.
That's 2 years in a row their starter leaves in game 1 of the LDS and they blow the lead. It's uncanny.
Elsewhere, we've got Milwaukee with a 1-0 lead over the Cubs. Game 2 will be tomorrow. And then going on right now, top 7, we've got Seattle with a 2-0 lead over the Tigers, as the Tigers only have one hit in this game through 7, through 6, as the Mariners look to even that series at 1 game apiece.
Yeah, Castillo's throwing BBs tonight, dude. He is throwing absolute BBs. And Polanco has hit 2 dingers. That's how they've scored both runs. So Scooble's giving up 2 bombs. Excuse me. But let's go to the beginning of that one here. Let's get to the NFL week 5. The wrap up there. Thursday night was a good one.
So running down the scores as we typically do with Jim's NFL segment. On Thursday night, we have the 49ers going into Los Angeles and come away with a 26-23 overtime win. Matthew Stafford, 30 of 47, 389 yards, 3 touchdowns. Kyrie Williams, 14 carries, 65 yards. The 49ers are now 4-1, including the last 2 without Brock Purdy.
Yeah, that's a big win for them. Is Nick Bosa hurt too?
Yes.
So that's without Brock Purdy and Nick Bosa. That's a pretty good run for these 49ers.
Kind of going right down the pipe, the game that we typically spend the most on, we will not so much today. In very, very bright and early this morning over in Tottenham, England, the Minnesota Vikings take a final minute drive and knock off the Cleveland Browns 21-17. Carson Wentz, 25 of 34, 236 yards and a touchdown. Quinshon Judkins, the rookie for the Cleveland Browns, the Mississippi Project, who played 1 year at Ohio State. So, Mike, you do not really get to claim him here. 23 carries, 110 yards, and also accounted for nearly 140 all-purpose yards. Justin Jefferson, 7 carries, 123 yards. In his NFL debut as a starter, rookie Dylan Gabriel, 19 of 33 for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns.
I mean, listen, the Browns play well enough to win until the final drive. So, tip your cap to Minnesota for making the plays when they needed to and move on.
The Browns are now 1-4, as we discussed. Elsewhere in the NFL, we have the Indianapolis Colts are now 4-1, coming off of that shellacking last week, and they turn around. They put it right back on the Las Vegas Raiders, 40-6. The Raiders jumped out to a 3-0 lead after the first quarter. The Colts proceed to put up 20 points in the second, 20 points in the third, and the Raiders get a late field goal to make it 40-6. Geno Smith, 25 of 36, 228 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then Ashton Jeanty, 14 carries, 67 yards. Daniel Jones in the win, 20 of 29 for 212 yards and 2 touchdowns. Very efficient day again out of him.
My God, when you have an offensive line protecting you, what you can do.
The New Orleans Saints are into the win column today with a 26-14 win over the New York Giants. Spencer Rattler, 21 of 31, 225 yards and a touchdown. Cam Scatabo, 15 carries, 59 yards, and all of this without Malik Neighbors, who went out with a alphabet soup worth of injuries thanks to that god awful MetLife turf yet again, claiming
Mhm.
another star. But the Giants are now 1-4, and Jackson Dart did not have a very good game, owned it, but I think he'll actually be able to bounce back um, a lot faster than somebody like a Russell Wilson would.
Agreed. Darts, he's got a short memory. You don't, and not for nothing, you don't play for Lane Kiffin and have a long memory.
The Dallas Cowboys are 2-2 as they knock off the New York Jets in MetLife 37-22. The Jets are 0-5, even though the Jets had to score 16 fourth quarter points to make it a two-score game. Justin Fields in the loss, 32 of 46, 283 yards, 2 touchdowns. Uh, could the Jets be the worst team in football, even more than the Cleveland Browns and another team in that division we're talking about right now, Michael?
Possibly. Possibly.
In a highly competitive second half, the Denver Broncos hand the Philadelphia Eagles, the defending champion Eagles, their first loss, scoring 18 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to come away with a 21-17 win, including a failed Hail Mary that was knocked out of a receiver's hands by the Eagles as time expired. Jalen Hurts in the loss, 23 of 38 for 280 yards, 2 touchdowns. J.K. Dobbins for Denver, 20 carries, 79 yards, and a touchdown.
Listen, Denver's defense is for real, and I think you've seen now that Philly, when you can't push your way to a win, is going to have problems at times.
The Carolina Panthers pick up their second win with a 27-24 win over the hapless Miami Dolphins. In the loss, Tua Tagovailoa, 27 of 36 for 256 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jalen Waddle, 6 carries, 110 yards, and 1 touchdown. We all know that Miami is going to be looking for a coach at the end of the year with Mike McDaniel, his seat getting hotter and hotter. But and that's what's even funnier is because even without Tyreek Hill, there's still a lot of talent in that receiving core.
There is a lot of talent there still, but unfortunately, they have a guy who probably doesn't know where he is half the time throwing the football to him. So, Miami is a shit show as it normally has been since Marino left. Yeah, I don't expect anything less out of this team.
The stunner of the day after starting the season 0-3, the Houston Texans have won back-to-back games as they put the wood to the Baltimore Ravens 44-10 in Baltimore. CJ Stroud, 23 of 27, 244 yards, 4 touchdowns. Nick Chubb, 11 carries, 61 yards, 1 touchdown. No, I'm not using his full name because he doesn't play here anymore. And Zay Flowers for Baltimore, 5 catches, 72 yards. The Ravens are 1-4. Let me say that again. The Baltimore Ravens, who a lot of experts were picking to go to the AFC Championship game, no Lamar Jackson, are 1-4.
I think this cements the fact that Lamar might be the most invaluable player in the NFL. And I don't mean for a trophy. I mean in general.
The Tennessee Titans pick up the first win of the Cam Ward era in walk-off fashion, 22 to 21 over the Arizona Cardinals. Cam Ward in the win, 21 of 39, 265 yards, 1 interception. And Calvin Ridley, 5 catches, 131 yards, and arguably the most improbable touchdown you will see this season.
First of all, how come people drop the ball before the fucking goal line? Did you see that one too?
I did. So if in case you missed it, Cam Ward is trying to find his receiver in the left flat near the goal line, or at least down inside the 10-yard line. The ball gets tipped up in the air and intercepted, and then the defender catches it, takes 2 steps, falls to the ground, loses the football, and it's kind of and then you actually have the holy roller scenario with the Raiders and the Chargers from years past. Ball gets kicked backwards into the end zone, trying to be recovered by another Arizona defender and fallen on by a Houston player. I'm sorry, by a Tennessee player for a touchdown. And then the Titans go on and kick a chip shot 28-yard field goal as time expires to get into the win column today.
Again, get over the end line, for fuck's sake. Oh, by the way, great catch by Marvin Harris. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes.
Went up and double. That was a great catch by Marvin.
The Detroit Lions are 4-1, knocking off the Cincinnati Bengals 37-24 in a game that really was not that close late. Jared Goff in the win, 19 of 23, 258 yards, 3 touchdowns. David Montgomery, 18 carries, 165 yards, 1 touchdown. Jamar Chase, 6 catches, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns. The Bengals are now 2-3. The Lions, again, are 4-1 and have taken over first place in the NFC North division.
Cool moment before the game. David Montgomery's sister, who was in a very bad car accident, I think it was in February of this year, was at the game. He saw her before the game with his family. So great moment there and a great win. Listen, without Burrow, they're not a terrible team. Good win.
They're just not good enough to really kind of, compete and get themselves over the hump here. The most entertaining back and forth game of the day, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 4-1 with a 38-35 walk-off win of their own against the Seattle Seahawks. Baker Mayfield, certainly fan of show, 29 of 33, 379 yards and 2 touchdowns. Emeka Ibuka has a career day, 7 catches, 163 yards and a touchdown. Again, the Buccaneers are 4-1 and starting to put a little bit of distance in arguably the worst division in football, but winning the games late this year that's really going to help them once the snow starts falling in most of the rest of the country here.
I'll tell you what, he knows how to win games, and that's 3 of them are in walk-off fashion, if I'm not mistaken, with final minute drives to win games. And they haven't missed a beat without Mike Evans with the injury again. Ibuka has been amazing.
Through 5 games, Michael, is Baker Mayfield the NFL MVP?
If it's not him, it's Emeka Ibuka, for Christ's sake. Jesus, you see the numbers he's putting up. And
I mean, you have to figure it's a quarterback award. So right now, so far through 5 games, it's basically been Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield.
And I think you lean more toward Baker just for this reason. One, his future Hall of Fame wide receiver has been hurt. Godwin just came back last week, and if you give them an extra 2 minutes, they would have beaten Philly.
Last game of the 4:00 series, the Washington Commanders send the Chargers to back-to-back losses. So after starting out 3-0, the Chargers are now 3-2 as the Commanders handle business rather easily, 27-10. The Chargers jump out to a 10-0 lead after the first quarter and do not score the rest of the way. Jaden Daniels, 15 of 26, 231 yards and a touchdown. Deebo Samuel, 8 catches, 96 yards and a touchdown. The Commanders are 3-2.
I'll say this about the Chargers. Their issues down the stretch are not going to be Justin Herbert, who's playing amazing this year. It is going to be their defense.
As we've just opened up the third quarter in Orchard Park, the New England Patriots have a 6-3 lead over the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, 10 of 12, 120 yards. James Cook, 11 carries, 47 yards. Dalton Kincaid, 4 catches, 68 yards. But Buffalo is driving, and they are now in field goal range at the New England 34. The Bills looking to become I believe, the lone unbeaten left in the NFL at currently sitting at 4-0.
Well, again, as we go from the NFL now until the next section, it is a whiteout in Buffalo, and I hope that they're the only team that has the whiteout that actually wins.
And then tomorrow night we will have the Kansas City Chiefs, hopefully looking to right their ship at 2-2. Will travel to Duval and actually face the surprising 3-1 Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good one. Sunshine is playing well. Let's see what Mr. Swift and Mr. Mahomes can do tomorrow night down here. Just a stone throw from me.
ESPN predicting Kansas City is a 62.5% winner in this game.
Oh, that's low.
And according to DraftKings, as it's coming up, the line on this game is currently Kansas City minus 3.5 with an over under of 45.5.
Let's see if Jacksonville's defense shows up the way they have been recently. If they
It's
do, it's
also
going to be another
hilarious.
night for those boys.
It's also hilarious because with live game updates, Buffalo actually started this game, I want to say, as a 9-point favorite. They are now only a 4.5-point favorite. And then the over-under on this game has just changed to 33.5. If they've only had 9 points between them, they got to play like hell to be able to catch that. So if you're on the apps, take the under.
Yeah, hammer it. But yeah, tomorrow night's gonna be fun. I might actually watch that one. And of course, Pittsburgh, Green Bay, Atlanta, and Chicago all had the buys this week. So well, listen, we're past the quarter pole in the NFL season, which is unfucking real. Jim, what do you say we get to the top 25? Just because I know the last two things will be more youth centric with there. So you see the top 25 coming across college football. Here were the big shakeup, and for the first time in the history of the AP poll, the preseason number 1 and number 2 are out
In the
as,
same week.
in the same week as Texas loses to Florida in the swamp. That's 2 road games for Texas and 2 losses, with one more big road game coming up in the next couple of weeks between the hedges in Athens, as they will play Georgia. And Penn State goes out to UCLA and somehow becomes the first top 10 team to lose to an 0-4 team since 1985. Unfucking real. Across the top 25 after that, though, you basically everybody held serve and did what they were supposed to do. You had a couple of games that were upsets. Of course, you have UCLA beating one of the top ranked teams in the country in Penn State. You had
Iowa State's loss dropped them 8 spots.
Yep, you had a good one in Tallahassee for as much as we thought it was going to be a blowout. As Florida State takes a 19-point fourth quarter and only loses 28-22 to
Yeah,
Miami.
but there's no. I mean, it's going to look decent in the eyes of pollsters and everything. The fact that Miami only wins by 6, but that they were up big going into the fourth quarter and just kind of
Agreed.
they let their foot off the gas. I mean, there was my Florida State gets 2 scores in the final 3.5 minutes of that game to make it a 1-score game. Can't get any closer, and Miami was actually even, I don't want to say emptying the bench. I actually watched part of the third quarter and then very early in the fourth before I started falling asleep. Based off of the last thing that we're going to talk about tonight, where Mike gets to shit on me for a couple of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, Mario Cristobal already knew that he had this game in the bag.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, when you look at the final score, which is all these people do in the AP, it's only a 6-point win against a team you should have beaten the piss out of. Of course, we talked about Penn State losing at UCLA. Texas A&M beats Mississippi State 31-9. Florida, that final in that game at the Swamp was 29-21 over Texas. Bama gets some revenge after last year beating Vandy 30-14.
As Vanderbilt is the other large dropper of the week, falling 4 spots. No other team in the top 25 fell any further than 1 spot.
Very true. Texas Tech holds serve and beats Houston 35-11. Kentucky loses to Georgia for the 16th time in a row. I'm pretty sure I read somewhere. 35-14, unlike last year's 1-point loss in Lexington. At home in Lexington, they lose by 21 in Athens. Cincinnati knocks off previously unbeaten Iowa State in a Big 12 matchup 38-30. Michigan beats Wisconsin 24-10. First time they beat Wisconsin 2 years in a row in 20 years. Notre Dame holds serve against Boise State 28-7. Number 22, Illinois, waiting for their next week matchup against Ohio State, beats Purdue 43-27. And for the second week in a row, number 24, Virginia beats a good team in overtime, beating Louisville 30-27 in overtime. And of course, my game of the week was Saturday night. Ohio State gives up a field goal in the first drive of the game and then scores 42 unanswered points to beat Minnesota 42-3 at the Horseshoe. Jim, we got some pretty decent games this week. That number 22 ranked Illinois team will have the Buckeyes. They are the noon game of the week on Fox in Illinois. So it's going to be another test for this Buckeye team on the road. Because they play on the road this week and next week. They're not home again until November 1st against Penn State. Your boys get Bama at home, and that's 5-0. Number 14, Mizzou, will get Bama at high noon on ABC. Florida State will try and rebound from the loss to Miami against Pitt in Tallahassee. Number 4, Ole Miss will get Washington State. That's a random fucking game. Here's an interesting one out in Eugene. That's number 7, Indiana, and number 3, Oregon.
That's
Really
the
game of the
marquee
week
game of the
next
week on CBS on Saturday.
And here's why it's the marquee game of the week, because it's also the week of Red River. Jim, I'm going to ask this, and we don't get into a lot of questions about college football because you're not really doing too much with it this year, and I'm really paying attention to the Buckeyes. Is this the biggest fall from Heisman grace we've ever seen?
It's got to be up there. It really, because I actually you sent me the image, and I'm going to say it's a very catch-22 for what happened in the swamp, because me being a lifelong Gator fan, going out and winning that game, it's now a stay of execution against dumping Billy Napier, who should have been fired last year.
Yeah.
But the problem is that it also, it's the win is good. Keeping Billy Napier on for a few extra weeks or even the end of the year, bad. Texas losing, good for me, because it also now dramatically weakens Ohio State's resume, because they're only 41 votes ahead of Miami for the number 1 spot in the country. Now they're going to end up flip-flopping with Oregon because they jump Oregon this week, who was idle. And then Oregon, if they go out and they beat Indiana, it's going to leapfrog back over for beating another top 10 team, even though arguably Miami has got the best resume in the country. If you were to put the FBS and the playoff rankings out right now, I think Miami would be number 1 with a bullet.
Yeah, I think the top 4 in that, which are the 4, because they're doing straight seeding this year. They're not doing conference championships. I think your top 4, if the playoff schedule came out today, honestly, you would see Miami at 1, Ohio State at 2, Oregon at 3. And at 4, as scary as this sounds, I think you see Ole Miss. So now you've got 2 teams from the Big Ten, an ACC and an SEC team in the top 4. Fill in the rest as you go. But this week's going to go a long way to solving some of this stuff, because not only is it 7 versus 3 in Oregon, and number 6 Oklahoma has the Red River game against Texas. Virginia Tech is at Georgia Tech, and that's a sneaky good game every year. Notre Dame NC State is also this coming weekend. It's a 3:30 game on Peacock. Iowa State, coming off that loss, goes to Colorado to play Coach Prime. Tennessee at 4-1 gets Arkansas. Texas A&M hosts Florida. Texas A&M's number 5 team in the country. Billy wins this game, you're stuck with him for the rest of the season. I can tell you that.
I would
Texas Tech.
And now here's the $64,000 question, and I know you don't want to talk about this. We've got a 5-0 Texas A&M team. We've got a 5-0 Mizzou, and we've got a 5-0 Ole Miss. If Texas A&M holds serve and Mizzou goes into Tuscaloosa, if they hold serve in Columbia, who's the top team in the SEC then?
Flip a coin between Mizzou and Ole Miss at that point.
And you throw A&M in there too.
And you got to throw Georgia in there, even though their losses to Alabama, they're going to beat Texas in a few weeks. Texas is going to go from the number one team preseason to 3 losses in the first 8 weeks of the season. And it's going to be hysterical. So speaking of Texas Tech, they have Kansas this week at home in Lubbock. Georgia travels to Auburn to play there. Michigan has to go out to the Coliseum and play against USC. As we've seen these teams from the East in the Big Ten having to go out to California or even Ohio State or Washington, it takes them a minute to get acclimated. And if they don't play defense getting acclimated, they're going to get the doors blown off.
And keep in mind, this could be one of the I mean, this is also a very good matchup because both of these teams are 4-1, and USC was ranked a couple of weeks ago for the first time in we can't remember how long.
Exactly. This is really going to be Sharon Moore bringing that defense to the West Coast against Lincoln Riley and that really rejuvenated USC offense that's played really well this year. LSU will host South Carolina. BYU, who's at number 18, goes to Arizona again, a 4-1 Arizona team playing BYU. Arizona State at 21 will play Utah, rounding out the top 25 that are in action this coming Saturday.
And you also have South Florida heading to North Texas. That's a 4-1 South Florida whose only loss was to Miami against a 5-0 North Texas team.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
As South Florida looks to now be trying to chase down Memphis to be able to get that group of 5 bid, that group of 4 bid, I should say.
If they lose this game to North Texas, I think you just basically handed Memphis the shot at the playoff.
But you also can't rule out, with both of them being in the American Conference, you can't rule out North Texas sneaking up there too, as they would be 6-0.
They won't see Memphis until the championship game. Or do they do round robin or they get them in the championship game?
Checking North Texas's schedule here very quickly. They will, as a matter of fact, they actually, they will play UTSA, Charlotte, Navy, UAB, Rice, and Temple. So they will not meet until the conference final. Although Navy also sitting at 5-0 undefeated in the American Conference.
What was it? It was last year that we had the 2 service academies were in conversation to get into the playoff. Real quick, just looking ahead for 2 weeks because we're talking about the different games coming up. Big one in the SEC in 2 weeks is Ole Miss comes to Athens. We've got a couple of different games that are just going to be amazing in the next 2 weeks.
You got. I mean, in 2 weeks, we're going to have Mizzou going into Auburn. You got Louisville, who's 4-1 and could be ranked, going up against Miami. In Miami, in the Orange Bowl. Again, you talked about the Ole Miss Georgia game, and then you're going to have. We're going to see what Oklahoma's going to do when they're going to have to play a very tough South Carolina team.
Yes.
Tennessee and Alabama is going to be a real good one. Texas Tech and Arizona State. LSU Vandy. So, I mean, the next 2 to 3 weeks are loaded up with some really, really good matchups. Even Memphis is going to play a UAB team that always seems to give them trouble.
Yeah. And being the Big Ten guy that I am, that same week, you also have Washington coming east to the Big House to play against Michigan. And the one thing that Sharon Moore's defense the last 2 years hasn't been able to do is stop that mobile quarterback. The same bugaboo Ohio State had for many years. And then you also have, not for nothing, I know they're not the greatest anymore with Fickle at the helm. It's a night game at Camp Randall between Ohio State and Wisconsin, which, again, this is not about good, bad, or me trying to build up Ohio State's resume. Camp Randall's not an easy place to play. So we got some good games coming in the next couple of weeks. But enough about college football. Let's discuss with Tuesday night. How about that?
So the NHL will open their regular season with a triple header on Tuesday night, as we will actually have at 7 p.m. At 5 p.m. we will have Chicago against the defending champion, the 2-time defending champion Florida Panthers. At 8 p.m. Pittsburgh will travel to MSG and play the Rangers, and then Colorado will open up in Los Angeles to play the Kings, and then we'll have 4 more games on Wednesday. and then everybody will be on the slate come Thursday. And then I think we're also getting some international games, but I think those are holding off for a few weeks. And that brings us to the JC Blue Note number of the week.
Ooh.
And the number of the week is 312. Mike, do you know what this number represents?
How many days until the Stanley Cup Finals start?
It's close. This was the combined number of penalty minutes in the final preseason game between the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning, where something happened that I have never seen in watching 40 years of hockey. Did you hear about the goal that got disallowed?
No, I didn't.
Florida is up 7-0 in the third period. There's been ejections galore. At one point, Tampa had more guys in the penalty box, 9, than they had guys on their bench, 6. So Florida scores a goal to go up 8-0. The officials then 5 minutes later go back and look at this, and they take the goal off the board because one of the players who assisted on the goal, Nico Mikkola, who just signed a 7-year contract extension with the Panthers back on Tuesday, got tossed out of the game 5 minutes earlier and was still
Came back
on the ice. They had tossed so many guys out of this game, they couldn't figure out who was still there. So Nikola was still on the ice, even though he had already been tossed out of the game, assists on the goal, and then they take the goal off the board a couple of minutes later. I have never seen this.
No. Hey, speaking of the NHL, so my wife has been sending me TikToks from the NHL. 2-2, top 8 in Seattle. Detroit has come back to tie it. And she sent me one the other day that was interesting and wanted me to ask you about it. There are 5 teams in the NHL with a color in their name.
I already have 4 of them off the top of my head.
I knew you would. Enlighten us.
The St. Louis Blues, the Detroit Red Wings, the Chicago Blackhawks, the Columbus Blue Jackets. I'm not trying to cheat.
I couldn't think of the 5th one either.
This is killing me because I'm literally I can't think of the 5th one.
Neither can I.
I will have it in a minute.
I'm already there.
Ducks, Bruins, Sabres, Flames,
Vegas.
Hurricanes, Blackhawks, Avalanche,
Vegas.
Blue Jackets, Stars, Red Wings, Oilers, Panthers, Kings, Wild,
Vegas.
Golden Knights. The one team I didn't think about.
That's because fuck Jack Eichel.
Yeah. Philip Gustafson gets a massive contract extension with the Minnesota Wild. Kirill Kaprizov gets that record deal. I think we talked about that very briefly last week.
We did.
And then we also had some bad blood between the Ottawa Senators and the Montreal Canadiens ending up the preseason. So teams are ready to go, although there's a lot of experts and analysts out there with TSN, with ESPN, Bar Down, who's a subsidiary of TSN. They're all saying you don't need to be doing this in the regular season. I'm sorry, until the regular season. To do this in
Agreed.
preseason is ridiculous. And I hope that the league starts stepping in and actually starts heavily fining or maybe even suspending some of these guys.
I agree with you. The preseason, it's stupid. It's just absolutely fucking stupid. You want to
It's
fight when it means something.
it's still very weird to be able to see that they're gonna be raising the banner before a lot of people are off work to be able to watch it down in
Which
Sunrise
I don't
on
which I
Tuesday.
don't like. I don't like that. And again, I'm not the biggest hockey fan. I now follow it for the show.
You should have put Rangers if you were gonna do anything, if you were gonna do your triple header, you put Rangers Penguins at 5, and then you move the Panthers to 7.
Yes, agreed. You wanted the raising of the banner, especially in a back-to-back champion, the first one in forever. You should do that absolutely. So let's discuss the final topic of the week. I wanted to say to you, James, I know we are fond of him, but doing a Baker Mayfield impersonation 3 weeks or 4 weeks before Halloween is not necessary, sir.
I have sprained my rotator cuff and my AC joint, so I am going to be on the shelf for probably the next 2 to 3 weeks, although I will say wearing this compression sleeve almost 24/7 since Friday, my shoulder has not felt this good in almost a week. So last week we talked about it on the show. I had a coffee table delivered. I don't think the box is going to fit in the trunk of my car. So what do I decide to do? The box is not that heavy, maybe 30 pounds. I throw it up over my shoulder and I walk 2 buildings over. I put the table together. I feel no pain or anything. Sunday, I start to feel a little bit of discomfort. Monday, I cannot lift my arm any higher than this.
Oof.
And I can feel it right between. I will show basically on the other arm. I am not trying to show off my lack thereof of guns or anything, but it's basically when you go and get your flu or your COVID shot, how they get you right between the shoulder blade and the upper part of your tricep. Right there, there's a pinch, and then as you rotate your arm, you're feeling it click. So, yeah, so there's an AC joint sprain. It's definitely not a dislocation or a separation because the pain was not 24/7. It did not feel hot. It did not swell at any point. It never turned black and blue. It's just probably you know, if I had to estimate, maybe a grade 2 or even a grade 3 sprain of the rotator cuff or the AC joint itself.
Do you remember Caliendo talking about Gronkowski with the sprain
It's not a
going to the
high
Super
ankle.
Bowl?
You don't want the low ankle sprain. You don't want the high ankle sprain. Yep. I definitely do remember that.
That's all I heard him. In all seriousness, I'm glad able to fight through it. But I will say this.
I will have an ice pack on this the second we go off the air and right before I go to bed, and then the sleeve will go on right as I'm falling asleep again.
When you sent me the picture and you said that you were going on IR, I had so many other jokes in my head. To paraphrase our buddy Sterling Archer, I had something for this. But sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
getting
going on
some
the
text.
thanks for the reminder. That's going on the soundboard and then within the next week or two.
But I will say this: the Baker thing was first because you mentioned it. So this is the
Because
conversation.
because I was responsible for that. I was at that game where Schwartz missed the block.
So Jim sends me the picture of him sitting at his desk with his sleeve pulled up, shows me that sleeve. And my response is, we will need to discuss this on Sunday. And colorful explicatives were exchanged, as they normally are. In all seriousness, I'm glad to see you're on the mend, but at the
Because the
same time,
worst thing is that I sleep on my side, and it's typically on my right side. So thankfully, I'm not hitting this side. But the problem is that when you sleep on your side like that, your arm when it droops, you can feel a little bit of tension. So now I am having to try and force myself to sleep on my back with a pillow underneath my arm, as now that felt a little tender. But I think it's because I also washed the brace, so I think it's a little tighter than usual because it was in the dryer, which it
Hell,
is washable, so it's until it like stretches out. This is just gonna suck though because I'm now actually for my workouts, I'm gonna actually have to do a lot more cardio because I'm not gonna be able to do kickboxing or any kind of lifting at least for the next 2 weeks
at
minimum.
least, at
So
least.
I mean,
Um,
thankfully, I actually watched some of my favorite content creators finally getting around to watching my favorite movie for this time of year, Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I'm all
yeah,
hopped up on prescription medication, except mine's not prescription, it's over the counter Aleve. But I basically been popping those like they're candy, not going over the dosage and everything. And I need to make sure that I bring the right, that I use the right ice pack because the one that I have been using, it's basically like I I'm not being facetious when I say this. It is literally the size of my head. It will go from here down to about there, and it will freeze my entire shoulder and upper arm. I don't want that. I only want the one that I can put in a plastic sleeve and just hit that area of the shoulder, which now sucks because I'm hopeful that this is healed in the next couple of weeks so I can get my COVID and my flu shot. If I'm injured and they're going to stick a needle in there, they're not going to be able to because when you do those, they get you in opposite arms. So I need this to be somewhat healed in the next 2 weeks to be able to get my yearly vaccinations. Otherwise, I'm going to have to get this done and then come back 3 days later and get it done in the same arm again.
no bueno. No bueno. But hopefully you're able to overcome this injury. I think you playing through it tonight was commendable. If it is going to affect your delivery, like most people said, it did affect Baker's. I'm sure we have people who will tap in.
You have to stop the Q-tip when there's resistance.
Which was my methodology of thinking, why the fuck did I just not put this in the car and drive it over? I actually even picked up 4 packages yesterday, including that Islanders jersey, a couple of hats, and a new and a Guardians City Connect shirt, and told the girl there because she was the one who's normally at the package room. She was off last week. Told her all about that, and just the look that she gave me, as well as her and I have gotten to know each other over the last decade. Um, yeah, she was the first one to pile on.
If I had it, because I don't right now, I may
Excuse me.
bless
Again,
you. You're good. If I bless you,
thank you.
if I had it at the moment, and I'm thinking Christmas is coming, I don't know. You might get a dolly. You might get one of those little package things you can carry behind it, like a luggage holder. Um,
I almost should have put it in the wagon that I use for my groceries, but I think it would, the one that folds up and you can put in your trunk. Um, but
oh, so you have one.
I didn't think it would fit. And also if it did, how was I actually going to get it to stand up? Because it's not like I could tilt it on its side.
Yeah, I'm gonna get you a dolly or something that you can do this stuff with.
It's also going to be really the last thing I'm going to need. That was like the last large package I was going to need. I mean, the only other thing I was going to need was go to Walmart and get like one of those two-tier step ladders or something, like, especially when I was hanging these because I was actually having to stand on the edge of the bed. Not that easy to do when it's a memory foam mattress.
No, because it remembers you and it dips. Well, James, although the hilarity was not where we wanted it to be, because quite honestly, I did have something for that, and I just don't like that. Um, there's really only one thing left to do, sir.
Would you shut up and just push the button already?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
It's the YZ Translator on the Wise Guys Sports Show.
I'm forever unclean.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the dulcet tones of Yakety Sax can only mean one thing, and that is it is time for the YZ Translator, that moment when James and I give each other names inside and outside of the sports world, and we come up with the first thing that comes to mind. It is the favorite segment of our show because it is the last segment of our show. As has become tradition, and if I was really one of those musical theater kids, I would have had the music from Fiddler playing just now. James gives us the weekly YZ Chronicle, the moment that James unveils the chyron that goes with the week's translator that I know nothing about. So, James, if you would please, sir, the Chronicle. fucking Roman numeral joke. Are you kidding me right now? Do it like that.
God.
Not a Star Trek fan?
I am a hell of a lot more. Yeah.
Okay. Can we not do that right now?
Oh my god. Okay, James. So your first name in this week's Wisey Translator comes from the world of college football. And no, it's not Billy Napier for a third time this year. I'm not going to do that to you.
It would actually be the third time. It would be the third straight week.
You're very, very close to it. No, Jim, your first name in this week's Wisey Translator is Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian.
There's part of me that's almost starting to feel bad for him because I'm wondering if he's kind of getting into the same mentality as the Browns had with Johnny Manziel being forced to play Arch with all the hype that's built up with him. Texas, I don't think if they're not trying to feed the machine, they're not this demoralized at this point.
I don't know. I said it before. I don't know how they get out of the season without 3 losses. They're done. This is the PC.com Bowl. Wouldn't it be hilarious if they played like the Poinsettia Bowl against Penn State?
I mean,
You would have the matchup people thought were going to play for the national championship in like the fucking San Diego County Poinsettia Bowl.
or the GoDaddy Bowl or the Idaho Bowl or some. How funny would it actually be to be able to put those two teams on the blue turf?
They'd get the Pinstripe Bowl because all the overrated things would be in one stadium.
Which is basically what the committee is thinking, knowing that that's now a realistic possibility.
Yeah, right. The highest rated non fucking playoff bowl game is going to be
BCS
whatever one
level,
they pick.
New Year's Day bowl that you can think of. Yep.
A Gator, you can put them in the Gator Bowl.
Isn't the Gator Bowl part of the part of the tournament?
No, the peach and the it's the peach, the rose, the fiesta, the sugar, the orange. Cats weren't getting along, so Ollie had to get slapped. Peach, fiesta, orange, rose.
Speaking of Rose, something came across my timeline.
Sugar.
And it was Betty White on Password. Do you know the clip I'm speaking of?
Is it where the it's bull and the guy's like, "Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it."
Bert, of all the hosts from from when we were growing up, Wink Martindale, Peter Tamarkin, I was always a little partial to Bert Convy.
I was a Chuck Woolery guy.
Chuck Woolery was good. For me, it was Bert Convy because he did Password. He did Win, Lose, or Draw. He also did Classic Concentration.
Yep. It'll always be Trebek, but yeah, I mean it's just Alex is the man.
Mike, your first name in the Wisey Translator tonight. We talked about the NBA. Now we're going to go the other direction as their season is winding down. As the Las Vegas Aces are now up 2-0 in the best of 7 WNBA Finals against the Phoenix Mercury, and somebody whose name has come up a lot for all the wrong reasons, and we spoke about it briefly last week. WNBA Commissioner and Public Enemy #1, apparently, Kathy Engelbert.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new person in the running for dumbest son of a bitch running a professional sports league. She takes all the wonderful qualities of Gary Bettman and Rob Manfred and matches them into herself. She's terrible. You know who they need to run the WNBA? Cheryl Miller.
That could be interesting, but I think she's still got like legacy ties or something to the Players Association or something.
It's possible, but I think that's what they need right now. Because the WNBA is at its most popular it's ever been. They're going to have a work stoppage if this bitch isn't replaced. Why not bring somebody in who's got and I don't think she does because she never played. Cheryl never played. I think the only one of Cheryl's contemporaries that played, two of them. The one from Houston, Cynthia Cooper. And who was the other one? She played center.
Well, there's according to an MSN report just a couple of days ago, they're already starting to draw parallels of 6 names that could potentially replace Kathy Engelbert as WNBA commissioner, and I'll run through them very quick. Former WNBA champion Swin Cash,
I like that.
Lisa Leslie,
Okay.
Rashida Clark, who was she played for 3 WNBA teams, and is now running a 724 million in Wendy's sales for the world's biggest franchisee.
Nice.
Melody Hobson, who is through her fund Project Level, she's investing in women's sports, pointing to rising attendance. She is currently ranked on Forbes list of at number 94 of the most powerful women in 2020. Bethany Donovan, who is she went from Liberty Forward to WNBA head of league operations. And then
She would be the choice.
the last name that they brought up was Nanika Ogumike, who's currently still in the league. She was a former WNBA president, the current on-court leader, and then could easily transition into a top executive role.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
Because remember, she is the current face of the Seattle Storm franchise.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I think the one who's in the front office right now should be the one to get the job. She's got the no ties, but I think you need someone with a strong enough personality that can not only advocate for the league, but understand it from a player's perspective. I think Cheryl's the answer. Just me. What the fuck do I know? Jim, who do you have for me to give me the second one to finish? Oh, no, it's my turn to give to you. I apologize. Speaking of giving and receiving in game shows. Okay. Pyramid was one of my favorites. I'm sorry.
I was always a pressure luck guy. That was, although we can all agree there was nothing better on a snow day than having to, if you were sitting home from school, you turn on at 11 o'clock in the morning, and what did you see? Price is Right.
Barker. Yeah. Okay.
Now,
So,
granted, before we get into that, what were we watching for? Were we watching for Bob Barker? Were we looking to see how weird they were going to be? Or were we actually trying to figure out, were we like trying to play lottery in our head about, which models were coming out with which pricing games and everything, or which pricing games were they going to be?
I was watching for Plinko. Just me. James, your second and final name tonight in the YZ Translator. We're going to stick with football again, and we are going to talk about another embattled coach, and that is Las Vegas Raiders head coach and NFL grandpa, Pete Carroll.
I understand that the Aiden O'Connell injury threw a monkey wrench into the season. I understand that you go out and you get Ashton Genty, the now who's quickly turning into the second biggest offensive threat to come out of this draft. As right now, I believe that Quinshawn Judkins would run away with the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year honors. Um, who beats
He
him?
is not.
Judkins?
No.
Who is?
Ibuka.
He's on a 4-1 team, and Judkins is doing this on a. I'm sorry, and Judkins is doing this on a 1-4 team after missing the first 3 games of the year with the off the field stuff. I can understand Ibuka, but the fact that he's got Genty, he's trying to get what he can out of Geno Smith. They have that big opening win, and it's just Raiders being Raiders, and they're going to have to. This is maybe a 2-year project, but the problem is that it's not like they can actually be bad enough to be able to try and campaign for a quarterback because you know a lot of the teams are going to be picking high enough in the draft. It is going to be a very good quarterback class, but you got to figure Cleveland could be looking for one, even though Dylan Gabriel looked very competent. I thought today, despite the fact that Kevin Stefanski is not going to make Black Monday at this rate with the play calling, with how they handcuffed him, and now they get to feed him to Pittsburgh, for his first actual game on U.S. soil as a starter. Michael, it's not going to be another Wisey number of the week. The number is 3. Do you know what that represents? And I'll give you a hint. It applies to the Cleveland Browns quarterback room.
The number of times they threw the ball downfield today.
That would actually be the number of touchdowns Dylan Gabriel has thrown this year, which actually leads the Cleveland Browns. He threw 2 today, and he threw 1 on the final drive in mop-up time against Baltimore, which, looking in hindsight, is Baltimore's only win of the year. Pete Carroll, I can't believe I'm saying this. Pete Carroll has got the Raiders in a better position than the Baltimore Ravens. Still doesn't mean dollars to donuts that they're not going to be picking in the top 10 of the draft again next spring.
Yeah. Jim, what do you say we round out tonight with this one here?
Mike, we're going to stay on the gridiron here, and we're going to go one extra direction for easily the strangest story of the last couple of days. And I know you already know where I'm going with this. And your second name in the Wisey translator tonight is Mr. Butt Fumble, but he is in a whole heap of trouble, and that is Mark Sanchez.
Somebody on TikTok said, Jesus Christ, Geno's so bad, Mark Sanchez would rather try and beat up an Uber driver than watch him play. What in the actual fuck?
It's not, I mean, if he's got things going on, we definitely don't want to throw shade or throw dirt on him. But even though he hasn't played in the league in what, 5 or 6 years now, maybe even longer than that, has it really gone that bad? Because he was in commercials not long ago.
No, and he's working for Fox. He's doing the analyst thing, and he's good at it. I don't know what the fuck happened. There was alcohol involved. He still gave the guy a 3-star review and put in there that, food was late and cold. Guy stabbed me, but still a decent dude.
I mean, nothing good ever happens after 12:30, and this was what, 12:34?
Something like that. Well, because I woke up Sunday and it's like, or the other day, Sanchez got stabbed. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? And then I see Sanchez arrested. I'm like, wait, something don't jive here. Oh my God. I can't even.
It's not also going to be a bonus name, but did you happen to see the video that came out in the last maybe 36 hours from one of the final practices of the Utah Mammoth at their new facility? And did you see who popped up there?
No, I didn't.
Whitworth and Fitzpatrick when they were on the road heading to LA for the Thursday nighter. Whitworth on skates can't skate a lick. Fitzpatrick played intramural hockey when he was at Cincinnati, and
You mean Harvard?
he's throwing dimes on skates to guys like Brandon Tanev and Logan Cooley from the Mammoth.
Here's a
Go
question.
go look up the
I will-
Mammoth on Instagram, and you'll see the video, and it's just hilarious because he's throwing routes from the goal line. He's not staying upright when he's following through on the pass, but it's just a flat out dime.
Should Fitz be the next most interesting man in the world?
Those commercials need to come back, but you don't really see Dos Equis around it much anymore because Modelo's taking them over and even taking over Corona for like Mexican style beers.
Yes, because Modelo doesn't taste like piss.
Yeah, it's damn good beer. I'll tell you that much.
It's good beer. It is good beer. Asshole.
That needs to be. I think I'm gonna actually make that the the thumbnail.
Too much, dude. So I mentioned something to you earlier that something's going to happen the next week or so. It hasn't happened in a long time, and it's because I'm pissed. There will be an episode of the Big Rican on Sports podcast coming out in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I am going in on the New York Mets fan base. I have had it. The only fan base I'm more pissed at is Cleveland.
Insubordinate and churlish.
Yes, very much so. So that is coming down the pipe in the next couple of weeks. I have to calm down a little because if not, it'll be recorded on a night like this during the week, and I will wake up the wife and child and will lose my life, and that's just not on the cards for this year. So that is coming down the pipe. Of course, next week we will have a full recap of the week's hilarity. We'll have another week of NFL and college football to get to, the opening of the NHL season, some preseason basketball. Hopefully we'll have Patrick here with us next Sunday. And of course, the translator, the hilarity. And maybe Jim will be out of the brace by then.
Are we going to know what to do because of the fact that we don't have a theme for the show because it was the NBA this week, it was playoffs last week, it was the NHL the week before. We're just doing a regular show?
Hold on. And 2 weeks before that, it was the NFL. And before that, it was college football.
College football. We're running out of themes, dude.
Something stupid's going to happen this week.
I mean,
feel it.
do we actually just do our holiday free-for-all like next week and be done for the rest of the year at this point?
No, because I have an idea for the week before Halloween.
Oh, God. That's me whenever Mike gets an idea.
I think it has merit, and I already have part of it in my possession.
That's what she said.
We will talk during this week about it because it requires a purchase, and it requires you borrowing something from It's nothing illegal. It may be amoral, but it's not illegal. Just the last time I said just react to this, it went really bad for you. I don't mean it now.
You're not helping. Good night, everybody.
I already have mine.
Was the first time you would have had that in years.
At least 4.
We'll see you guys next Sunday.
See you next week.